Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Jeremy B. Hill Show. For those that are on their way to becoming the best version of themselves, finding their own success, these are the real life stories, the goods and the bad, the successes and the failures from those leaders who have made it and those that are still on the journey. Welcome to the show. All right, my friends, welcome. We got another wonderful episode. Hopefully it's going to be wonderful. I know it is. I'm so excited to share a good friend of mine with you. Don and I've got to be friends over the last year or so, and as impressed as and excited as I was to meet him after I started sharing more time with him, dude, I got to tell you, is incredible. So Don Winter, here he is, the man of the hour. Started a company called DLP, which is a family of real estate companies. And listen to this. They have been ranked amongst the fastest growing companies by Inc. magazine for 8 years in a row. Last year, they were number 3 in the country. And Wall Street Journal has named them as one of the most influential real estate firms in the country. And this guy's like 20 years old or something. How old are you now?
36.
That's just irritating. Just irritating. Don Winter, welcome, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great, Jeremy. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with you.
Dude, I'm so excited to share some time. It is just your story and what it is that you have accomplished. Like, it would make me feel better if you were like 80 or 85 years old, right? It would give me a little hope for myself that I still got a lot of work to do, but time to do it. Seeing it is that you're much younger than me, not nearly as good looking, but much younger than me. And you were just absolutely kicking butt, man. Just really inspires me. I'm so happy to have you on.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
For those that are not familiar with your DLP, give me a little bit about kind of who you are and what you do, and a little bit about the DLP brand.
Yeah, thank you. So the parent company is called DLP Real Estate Capital. Started the company in 2006 in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, hour north of Philadelphia. And it started as, as I'll explain what it is today, but it started as, me selling real estate at Keller Williams Real Estate as a college student, and then led to me flipping homes and grew into where we are today, which I can give that kind of history then. But where we are today is the family real estate companies, from real estate brokerage, which is my first company, DLP Realty, to DLP Lending, which is a direct private lender lending money to real estate operators, to DLP Capital Partners, which is our discretionary fund management company, to DLP Real Estate Management, where we do property management and construction management, asset management. So we have a title company and loan servicing and a marketing agency and a few other smaller businesses, but family businesses that revolve around the world of investment, housing, the world of real estate that we've grown here over these past 15 or so years.
That's incredible. So most people have difficulty starting one business, and you've got 5 or 6 or 7 platforms within DLP that are just catching fire, right? So I can't wait to find out the cookie recipe it is that makes this go, man. That's just amazing. So prior to DLP, like family of entrepreneurs, are you a trust fund baby? Or are you like, how did this whole thing begin?
Well, so answer to the trust fund baby is no. So interesting fact is my mom has been working for me for 14 years now.
Awesome.
My dad for 12 years, my stepmother for 8 years, my stepfather for 3 years, brother-in-law, sisters, brothers, a lot of my family has worked in the company, but both sets of my parents, for a long time now. I grew up, my mom ran a home daycare in my home. So I was the oldest of 4 and then 5 when we adopted my youngest sister. And we'd always have 5 or 6 other kids in my household at all times, from the moment I woke up, the moment I went to bed. And then my father was a prison guard. Nobody in they had me at 16 years old. Neither of them had any business background. We grew up, I think the nice word people use is lower middle class to describe it. I moved out of my house actually as a junior in high school, about 17 years old, and was kept my head on straight enough to get a scholarship to Drexel, and on a path to be a financial advisor is what I thought, because on a career day in 8th grade, a financial advisor came in and he showed us this little chart, and this chart said financial advisors made like 120,000 a year, attorneys made 100,000, accountants made 80 grand. It showed that, financial advisors made more money than doctors, attorneys, accountants, all the jobs your parents, tell you to do. And I was like, well, I'm good at math. I'm entrepreneurial. That's perfect for me. That's what I'm going to do. So that's what I thought I was going to do through high school, into college, worked at some big firms like BlackRock and McGladrey Reed and Poland and such, and got some corporate experience, but knew that's what I was going to do. All along the way, I was, waiting tables on the weekends, and a guy came into the restaurant I worked at, which was not some real fancy restaurant. It was Texas Roadhouse. Have you ever been to one of those?
Barbecue, man. Yes, yeah.
Yes, I had to line dance. If anybody's been to a Texas.
Oh, rough.
So I was about 19 years old, and I was working at Texas Roadhouse, and on the weekends, and this guy came. His name Nathan Robinson, still a good friend of mine to this day, and he told me he begged me to come work for him. And one day I finally said, all right. And I went and sat down with him one afternoon, and he promised me that if I came to work for him, I'd make $2,000 a week. And at 19, $2,000 a week sounded pretty good. And so whatever reason, I trusted him, and I said, all right. And didn't know anything about what the company really was, which was an ADT security franchise dealership. So I took the job, literally started like the next day. And my job consisted of very simply, knocking on doors. And that's what I did.
Knocking on doors and trying to hustle security systems?
That's what I was out doing, hustling security systems, selling alarm systems door to door to residential homeowners. And so my first paycheck was $5,280 for 2 weeks. And that was one of my lowest paychecks I ever received. Became the top sales rep in the country for ADT security within a few months. And really because I knocked on more doors than anybody else. I think that was a big part of the early success. And I figured my formula out was every 51 doors, I sold a system. So I knocked on a lot of doors. And but the other reason I think that was important is, so Nathan, I later found out, years into our friendship, that he never had somebody ever work for him and make $1,000 a week up until that point. But because he told me the expectation was that I should earn $2,000 a week and I should sell, I think that worked out to be, 8 or 10 alarm systems a week. That's what I should make. That's the expectation I had. And that's what he told me was normal. So I came in, I thought I was just doing a normal job. I thought I was doing what I was supposed to do, and didn't realize, that what the results I was getting were abnormal until he finally showed me the ranking reports, months later. But that gave me the kind of, first exposure to the real world of business, to sales. And then Nathan was an interesting guy because in addition to him owning the security company, he was a real estate agent at Keller Williams. And I'd come over to his house, every other Friday, or maybe it was every Friday, and he'd write me out my check for my commissions, right? And I'd see his checks for 15 grand, 20 grand for selling houses. And I thought I was doing so great. I was king of the world, making good money. And I'm seeing these big checks. And he said, well, Don, if you can sell alarms and knocking on doors, you can sell real estate. So that convinced me to get into real estate. And that kind of led to the path of we've been on since, which I can certainly explain more, but that's kind of how it started. And I was, 20 years old at that time, and hustled and got my real estate license, pretty much didn't sleep for a couple of weeks, took my classes online, and, got into real estate, still thinking I was going to become a financial advisor up until that point. But then real estate took off really, really fast.
Yeah. So it sounds like it is that you read the chart in 8th grade, like my eldest son reads a menu. So he reads from right to left, like what's the most expensive thing on the menu? That's what I'll have to eat, right? You're like, okay, so Dr. 128, what's fine? Okay. Yeah, I'm going to be a financial advisor. That sounds awesome. Well, so number one, there's so much in what it is that you just said about our level of expectation, right? And you didn't know at the time what was normal.
Yeah.
Right. You didn't know that you weren't supposed to do that. You didn't know that the average guy that was there was having academic results. You're like, okay, 51 doors and I sell on a system and here's how much I make. So here's how many doors I got to knock on, right? It's just math. Okay, well, here's what I'm doing today and tomorrow.
Yep.
So I had read some funny stories about you that even though you and your family didn't grow up silver spoon, and that, hey, I'm going to be a financial, how old, 8th grade, you're what, 15 years old, not even 14 years old.
Like that, yeah.
Right. So most people 13, 14 years old are, they want to be a quarterback or a fireman or a race car driver or something. They're not thinking they're going to be a financial planner. Right. But you had an early genesis, I understand, in in donut and pastry arbitrage, right? So donut arbitrage, for those that aren't familiar with it, maybe you could share.
Yeah. So that was my first parlay. So when I say in eighth grade, I was entrepreneurial. It started in kindergarten. So in kindergarten, I was living with my dad at the time, and at one point he decided to start packing those little. So you can probably visualize them. They used to come in a little 6-pack of Hostess donuts, and it was like 3 in a row. Those little black circular donuts.
Oh, yes.
They used to come in those little prepackaged sticks, right? So he started throwing those in. I think one day he must have bought like a giant container of them and started throwing one into my brown bag every day. And I started selling those donuts to my classmates for 50 cents a piece. So I was making $3 a pack of donuts, and so I kept asking my dad for those donuts every day, and he kept sending them in. Until a few weeks into my new business, school caught a wind of it, and principal called home to my parents and stopped my supply system. But it was a great little business, made probably $10-12, and was off and running. But it was a great taste, and that led into from War Hat, going to the Sam's Club and buying big bulks of stuff as I got a little older and selling them off to classmates, to then running a landscape business and employing my friends, and led to those types of entrepreneurial things through my early elementary days.
Dude, it's from, I think there's like your next book is like from donut hustler to, I don't know, something. I don't know. I like that, man. I like that. So I love the story so far, and just this genesis of you always looking for something and just looking for just an opportunity to do more. Like, so in the genesis of going with Nate from security to learning what he's doing in real estate, it sounds like it is that you were kind of not chasing this guy, but kind of like, well, I like that, and so let's go put some gas on that and see what happens if I run down this trail, or so on and so forth. And so was there a point to where you kind of abandoned the security thing and just go full tilt into real estate? And how did that position go? And you got your license, and now you're hustling houses, and then how did DLP come about?
Yeah, so I was, up all this time, up in this point of getting into real estate, I was still in college full time, and I was, pretty aggressive, and I just, always believe, first I believe if you see it, you can do it, and so that's what always given me the confidence to move into the next area. But always believed, the kind of the norms that apply to everybody else don't apply to me, and people set these false expectations. So example, when I was at college, I was going to Drexel, which is a great school, and they maxed out, told you weren't allowed to take more than 20 credits at a time, and I said, well, I can handle more than that. So I enrolled to a community college too, and would take a full load there, so I could do both at the same time, because I knew I can handle more. So I was literally having 32, 33 credits at the time between two schools, and was selling alarm systems when I got into real estate and was taking these classes. So I was, I was busy as all can be at that time. I was 20 years old, and then Nathan mentioned to me, hey, there's this conference in Phoenix, Arizona, right when I was getting my real estate license, on marketing, and let's go to it. And this was like on a, I don't know, the event was like over a weekend. He's like, let's shoot out and go to this. Like, all right, let's do it. So I flew out to Phoenix, Arizona, and I learned basically the Dan Kennedy style marketing. Everybody knows Dan Kennedy, kind of direct response, have a unique selling proposition. And in my marketing message after that, by the end of that weekend, I came up with a marketing message. And this has been a marketing message that we've had since. We made one tweak to it about 5 years ago. And this led to a lot of our kind of early success, which our marketing message was, your home sold guaranteed, or I'll buy it. Actually, specifically, it was, your home sold in 68 days guaranteed, or I'll buy it. And what was interesting is the month I got my real estate license, which was October 2006, was the peak of the real estate market in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, meaning home prices hit their peak, homes start taking longer to sell. So it was a good marketing message at the right time. And I was pushing it out through Craigslist when Craigslist had just become a thing.
Yeah.
I was spamming the heck out of Craigslist, pushing out this marketing message every day. Still doing, to put it in perspective, I was still doing print direct response marketing, like, sell your home guaranteed and call this number to get a free report type of marketing, and then, the beginning days of digital marketing. And then I started doing radio marketing. I actually convinced, at the time, he was a big deal at the time. He's not as big today. I convinced Glenn Beck to endorse me, and people like Sean Hannity and Barbara Corcoran, and started doing a lot of radio and television, but it was all pushing this guaranteed messages, and started getting a lot of motivated home sellers contacting me. But I was still doing alarm systems up until maybe 3 months, 4 months into real estate. And by And to give you a perspective too, my first 3 months, I didn't make a dollar in real estate, but I was building up this pipeline. I was working hard, running really hard, nonstop. If we get a chance, I'll tell you my first real estate sales story was pretty funny, but anyway, started then taking off, and then I just didn't have time to do them anymore, and I just kind of stopped selling alarm systems and just doing real estate. And then from my first sale to the end of that first year, so in an 8-month period, I had 67 sales. I made $253,000. Hired my first and then second assistant, hired a couple realtors to support me, all by the end of that first year. So within 8 or 9 months of my first sale, I had 4 people working for me, and was really starting to build momentum and helping people sell homes. And with this marketing message of your home sold guaranteed or I'll buy it, it got a lot of motivated home sellers to contact me. And some of those home sellers didn't want to list their home on the market or deal with the normal challenges. So I started stepping in and buying people's homes. And first sale was, how it all kind of started was an interesting situation that wasn't kind of meant to be when I bought my first property, but then that led to starting a home flipping business. And so then we were helping people sell homes while we were buying and renovating and flipping homes. And those grew, and to the point that we couldn't find enough good contractors to handle all the construction for our homes we're flipping. So I hired my best contractor, and we started a construction company. And then now we're running those 3 businesses. And then we were having tons of short sales. We said, hey, we know we can handle these short sales back in those days. And we started a short sale negotiation company, and we're doing that nationwide. And that became a big part of what we were doing. And then, came to the bottom of the market, and we were like, this real estate's either at its bottom, 2011, 2012, or it's got to be close to it. This is the time to buy as much real estate as we can. And so we started launching private investment funds, and we started building a portfolio of rental properties, and we launched property management to handle that. And that started going well. And then we started saying, all right, now we got more and more capital coming in, and we're growing. And, by 2014, we were a 100-person company, and we owned about 600-700 properties. And up until that point, we had grown every year by over 60% a year. And we said, all right, now we have more capital coming in. We're growing. How do we grow in a more scalable manner? And that's when we started lending money to other investors doing the same thing as we were doing. And, it's become this natural evolution of getting into the next business line as our business has grown and the market's changed, and allowing us to expand upon what we do.
Dude, so for most people, it is that have an inkling. Like, everybody knows somebody in real estate, right?
Yeah.
So it's astonishing. So I don't know what the numbers are on the West Coast or on the East Coast. I'm similar on the West Coast. That what is it? Something that the average real estate agent sells, 2 homes a year or something like that.
2 to 4 homes a year is the stats. Yeah.
Right. So it's certainly not to discredit, the housewife who bakes cookies and sells real estate from time to time, right? There's amateurs and professionals in any kind of business, but for the average person coming into the business, it's selling 2 or 3 homes a year. So you said in the first 8 or 9 months, you sold 67 homes and made 250 grand.
Yep.
Like, you go from nobody, hey, I was selling alarm systems yesterday, do I think it is that I can really hustle in the real estate business, to going to, probably top 1% in the country in less than 12 months.
Yeah.
But that's unbelievable.
I'll tell you a couple funny stories then. One I don't think I've ever told that it just made me think of. So when I joined Keller Williams, this was an office of 150 realtors, and I remember sitting down with the team leader, for those of you in the kind of Keller Williams type world. And one of the coolest things about Keller Williams, my favorite part of it, they had this system, I think it was called like the Crystal Intranet or something, but it was this intranet where you could see how much money every realtor in the country had made for Keller Williams, right? At the time, they had like 80,000 agents. So it was a really cool kind of, really seeing real numbers. Because what I say about realtors, the average realtor takes their best month of their career, they multiply by 2, and they extract that over 12 months. And that's how many homes they sell a year, right? So how many homes you sell a year? Well, last month they sold 3. So they say, well, that's 6 multiplied by 12. Well, I sell about 70 homes a year, right? Everybody exaggerates is my point, right? So it was really cool to see like how much money are people really making. So when I could see who was making the most money, I could then see, all right, what are they doing? What's on their website? What are they doing? How are they presenting? Yada, yada. So that's what I started doing. And so anyway, so by 2 weeks into my real estate career, I sat down with this team leader for my kind of, welcome to Keller Williams meeting. And he said, well, let's talk about your goals and what you want to do. And this 150 person agent with some of the top agents in the market. And I said, well, I'm going to be the top agent in this office. And he laughed me out of his office, telling me, how comical that was. And I have no understanding to how long it takes to build a real estate business. And this takes time, and you have to build up a client base. And, maybe that could be a good 5 or a 10-year goal, but there's agents who've been in this business 20 years and that's not, possible. And by month 9, I was the top agent in that office. And it was, but that was, I was really set on that. And then within about another 6 months, I was the top agent in the whole market out of about 3,000 agents. But what's cool, you say, well, how did I go from being this kid selling alarm systems, selling real estate? Literally, and this is the story I can't remember ever telling anybody. So my business of knocking on doors was to sell alarm systems. I'd go and knock on doors. So I kept doing that while I was starting real estate. But literally, the number one objection I'd say, or maybe number 2 that people would say to why they didn't want an alarm system is, oh, I'm going to actually be selling my home soon. And I would literally then flip my script and say, oh, well, I'm also a real estate agent. So imagine the 20-year-old kid coming to your door to say alarm system, and then tells you he also sells real estate, and then wanting to list your home with that person, right? Like that's a kind of an uphill battle. Yeah. I would already look like I was 15. And I had many times where I would meet with a client and they thought I was the kid coming to cut the grass, right?
Right. But you used to have a landscape company, so
yeah,
you
exactly.
cut the grass too, right?
Yeah, exactly. So but I had the comment, I'd flip the script and say, yeah, actually we can guarantee to sell your home. Put my head down, knock on the feet, say, well, let me come on in. And that's kind of the trick to get in when you knock on the door. You just kind of, let me come on and explain more. You don't look for an answer and just put your head down and walk on in the door, right? So I would just start doing that to tell them about selling their home. And that's how I got a number of my first sales, was really knocking on doors for alarm systems, then flipping it to, I'm also a real estate agent. So I just, I hammered the phones when I worked for Nathan. He had like 6 or 7 agents who worked for him. And what I said to him, I said, give me all the old leads that everyone said they can't convert. And I'd sit there and literally like what's that Will Smith movie, Pursuit of Happiness, right? Mm-hmm. Where you don't put your finger on the, you don't hang the phone up because it takes too long, right? It was just, I just dialed and dialed and dialed and dialed. And back, if you remember in the days when on your cell phone, you got free unlimited nights and weekends, but you had to pay 1,000 minutes during the day.
Right. Make sure your calls are after 5 o'clock.
Yeah, a lot of them were after 5, but even in the day I remember I was running about 20,000 minutes a month on my phone. So I was literally on my phone. I forget what it works out to be, like 9 hours a day, just hammering my phone nonstop. So it's just, I called every old lead. And I worked with some clients. My first home sale, this lady had been living in an apartment for 35 years, hadn't moved, $400 a month apartment. And she responded to an ad, buy a home with no money down, that I put in a newspaper, right? And so I took her out the first time, and she was a heavier lady, I'd say 500 pounds, maybe, to give you a perspective. And
wow.
So first time I took her out, and this is the first time this is not the first showing I ever did, but it's my first client. One of the first times I ever took somebody out. I took her to a home, didn't like the home, walked her back to her car. She fell down. I had to call the ambulance, fire truck, took multiple people to help get her up. That was my first showings I ever had, but I kept after it. I had to go and build a ramp because she couldn't get up one single step. So I had to go, and I actually had a friend help me do this because I'm not all that handy with this, but I had to build a ramp so I could get her inside of a house because she couldn't go up a single step. Took her out, 10, 15 times to finally find her home she wanted. The day of closing, I had to go drive her because there was snow outside. She couldn't drive in her car. She couldn't get in my SUV, so I had to borrow somebody else's car, take her to closing. Then I had to physically move her. And that whole transaction ended up being about a $80,000 home sale. I made $400 in the entire transaction, but she still lives in that home today and calls me every now and then to thank me. But my point being, I worked really hard. The clients that others wouldn't have spent time on, just hammering and falling up. And, you put a lot of motion, a lot of activity out there. Good things start happening. That's why it took me 4 months to have that first sale to Cynthia, is her name. But then, the momentum started, and next month I had 5, and next month it was 12. And then all of a sudden I was closing, 20 plus sales a month, by that 7th or 8th month.
That's incredible. And it's not the value of the $400. It's the value of the experience. And it's
exactly.
The value of it's a value of what it is that you exhibit, not only to other people it is that are watching, but to this woman, Cynthia, who, 10 years later or whatever it is still, paying attention. Right. And it's the character of you that it reveals. Right. And so, for anybody it is that ever listens to Gary Vaynerchuk or anything like that, right? When he's building his dad's wine store, he talks about he leaves at Christmas, drives like 2 hours one way in the snow or whatever to deliver some gal like a case of, pink cheap shit wine that was like $30, and his
Yeah.
dad's like losing his mind. And it was, but it was that was a flag in the ground for not only who it is that you are as a person, but how it is that you treat your business and what people can come to expect
Yeah.
from dealing with you. And that's an incredible story. I love it.
Our purpose that we came to this purpose statement, maybe 8-9 years ago, is dream, live, prosper, which is what DLP stands for. Passionately creating prosperity for and from real estate. And really that story with Cynthia and that sale was I created a solution for her, right? I missed kind of some of the highlights, which her landlord was doubling her rent. She couldn't afford it. She'd been there 30 years. That's what led to this motivation, be able to get her in a home that she could afford and that worked for her, didn't have any steps and so forth. I was hooked. And as we've gone through this process of launching many different businesses, doing different things, everything we still do today revolves around, we're creating solutions. And that's actually our BHAG, which is from Jim Collins' big, hairy, audacious goal is positively impacting 1 million lives through 100,000 solutions for and from real estate. And today we're at about 38,000 solutions. We're at a pace now where we're doing about 1,100 solutions a month. And
by solutions, you mean transactions like buying and selling homes?
So we're helping somebody buy a home. We're helping somebody sell a home. We're giving somebody a loan to go and buy a property and improve it, or flip it or turn it into a rental. We're helping a family invest capital into one of our investment funds so they can generate the level of income and returns that they're looking for. We're helping residents rent properties from us. All the different types of transactions or solutions or services that we provide. We track each of those as a solution. So those are some of the different forms of solutions across our various businesses that we provide today.
That's, so there is, who says it, and you're going to know. I mean, they say the fact that you can get everything it is that you want so long as you help somebody else get what it is that they want, right? And so for you, thinking about what it is that you're doing, providing 1,100, so you want to provide 100,000 solutions to people, right? And just like you said, whether that solution's helping buy a home, sell a home, invest in a property, rent a place, one thing or another, that, when we started this conversation and we talk about the fact that, you guys are growing 60% per year and, 8 years in a row, you're on this list and that list, and you're having this impact and all this other kind of thing, people would say, God, what is the recipe behind this? And Don's got to have, some secret sauce or, a magic wand, or he's related to David Copperfield or some kind of something, the magic behind this, it sounds like, is that what can I do for somebody else? And how can I contribute to this person? And how can I uplift them or move the needle or solve a problem? And the more problems it is that I solve for these other people, by default, the more successful we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give a little more color. So when people, what I always tell people, so when we do every month, so we have 400 employees, team members, as we call them now at DLP, and at our pace of growth, we're welcoming about 20 team members a month to the company. And so each month I do a meeting we call Welcome to DLP. And I kind of walk through some of our past story and explain kind of a bit about our culture and the systems we use and give some overview to where we're going. And I always, cover a slide where I say, people often ask me, why have we been so successful? How have we grown so fast? And I always tell people there's two reasons for it. Number one, first and foremost, is we have the very best people. And that's absolutely true, which you could say we have the best people. We have a great culture. They're very much interconnected, which I'll talk more about. And then two is we have a secret weapon, as I always call it. I always tell people it's a secret weapon, except it's not that much of a secret, because like I'm about to do, I'm always happy and wanting to share it with anybody who wants to listen to me. Because I believe it is truly what separates the most successful companies in the world from all other companies. And that secret weapon is the 20-mile march. And so the 20-mile march, it comes from Jim Collins. And so in Jim Collins' best book, in my opinion, which is called Great by Choice, his most famous book is Good to Great. His most recent book is called B 2.0, which I also recommend. It just came out a few weeks ago. But in Great by Choice, so in Good to Great, his more famous book, he studies these great companies, right? He studies, Southwest Airlines versus Pacific Southwest, and what was why was one so successful versus the other one. And he does these parallels between some of the really great companies that have been great over decades versus companies in the same space with the same advantages who failed. In Great by Choice, Jim Collins sets out to find out, all right, let's, based on these companies been successful, what do all of these successful companies have in common? What is the characteristic that if you chose or you put in place within your business, it would generate, it would drive you to be a great company, a company that enduring great, that outlasts the founder and the CEO and so forth. And that's that solution, or that characteristic that they all had in common, is the 20-mile march. And how Jim describes 20-mile march is he tells the story of two expedition crews who set out to get to the South Pole, and nobody had ever been to the South Pole before. Scott and Amundsen were the two leaders. And one gentleman and his crew got there first. The other group got there 31 days later, and then they actually all died on their way back. And not only did they, get defeated and didn't get there first and get the glory, but they all actually died on the way back. And these were both very similar leaders, very similar experience, very similar crews and resources. But the big difference between the two crews is the group who won, every single day they'd march 20 miles. So it could be, warm weather and the wind at their back, and they'd still hold themselves back and modulate their effort at 20 miles. On really tough days, freezing days, they'd force themselves forward 20 miles. The group who died, they would go 40 or 50 miles on a good day. And then on, bad days, they would stay in their tents and whine and wait for the weather to get better. And kind of the business parable to that is, it's about most things. And if coronavirus has taught us anything, right, it's that most of what happens in the world we can't control, right? We can't control the weather. We can't control global pandemics. We can't control the economy. We can't control our competition. What we can control is our activities. We can control what we do, what we focus on, each and every day. And so 20-mile march is about figuring out kind of your 80-20 rule, Parade's 80-20 rule of, 20% of our effort produces 80% of the results. Figure out what are the things that you do that are most impactful, and getting that understood across every person in your organization, and then focusing very clearly, on doing those activities, regardless of if we're in a good economy or bad economy, if it's the beginning of the month or the end of the month, regardless of if we're in the middle of a global pandemic, keeping everybody focused on marching forward every day. And I always like to remind my new team members, because when I ask people, what do you think is the business parable to the story, I'll often hear, it's the tortoise and the hare, right? Slow and steady wins the race. And I always have to remind people, no, it's yes, consistency is true, but this is not slow and steady. Anybody of you guys who wear a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or track your steps and your miles know that 20 miles is a pretty big day, right? That's about 40, 50,000 steps. I rarely get to 20 miles and I'm pretty active, right? That's a big day. And we're not talking about just doing 20 miles one day a month or one day a week or 4 a month or 4 a quarter. We're talking about doing it each and every day. And when you march forward with that level of consistency with a growing organization day in and day out, that's how you get to 60+% growth every year for 15 years, is this 20-mile march focus. So, I just wrote a book, as Jeremy, you kind of referenced earlier, and it's called Building an Elite Organization. And building an elite organization is about, in a way, deploying the 20-mile march. And that the way I think about an organization is that all businesses have 4 quadrants. You have strategy, you have people, you have operations, and you have acceleration. Acceleration is sales and marketing. And you need these 4 quadrants to all be growing together. So you need a clear vision, a clear direction, a clear place that you're marching to, like the South Pole, right? A clear direction. We call it the compass here in our organization. And then you need this disciplined approach. You need disciplined thought, disciplined action, disciplined people, which is where the 20-mile march comes into play. And often entrepreneurships and discipline are kind of on the opposite side, thought to be on the opposite side of the spectrum. And building discipline in an entrepreneurial organization is a hard thing to do. It's often hard because, probably if you're listening to this podcast, you're somebody who wants to learn and grow and improve. And you can go read a book and it tells you the secret to everything in growing your business is getting good at marketing, right? Or it's about leadership, or it's about management, or it's about, business development, or it's about technology, or, there's all these experts, and there's many great experts out there, but you put all your focus and energy around one part of your business. If you grow your sales, but you can't keep up with it operationally, your business can fail, right? If you grow build out the best SOPs and the best operating, most organized business, but you don't have the revenue to drive it, you're going to struggle. If you build a business around a strategy that doesn't make sense, you're going to struggle, right? You have to have all these things working together as part of one plan. We call that plan, that one system, the elite execution system, which is what we run in all of our businesses. And this is what we teach in the book and in our technology and so forth. And you can check out more of that at dlptools.com, but you can download a bunch of free tools there as well. But that disciplined approach to how we grow has been really key to us. And I mentioned there kind of quickly through that overview is at the center of all that is people. And for our organization, for our growth, we need really disciplined people, but we need great people for our organization, for where we are today, that fit in our culture, that share our values, and put those great people in a structure that allows them to be great, allows them to grow, allows them to execute, gives them the kind of structure and tools to operate within. Amazing things happen as long as you keep that 20-mile march focus. Again, day in and day out, year in and year out. And that's been a big part of what our success has been a result of over these many years.
Dude, that there's so much value there. So if anybody is not immediately pausing this podcast and going and buying this book, you're a fool. Right? So that's incredible. I think so. DLP started in 2006.
Yes. Yep.
So from 2006 to today, you've gone from Don, me, myself, and I, right? Kind of a thing, to now roughly 400 people.
Yes.
You've got 5 or 6 or 7 different business units, from construction to lending to management to on and on, right? And so I can see from it going from, Don, himself, to Don +1 to now Don +400, of everybody having this 20-mile march, philosophy in their mind, that now, mass creates gravity, right? Is that you continuing to move forward and adding one more, the compound effect of having Don +1 +2 +20 +400 is why it is that you're having this 60% growth, and having just that it seems like you have the Midas touch across everything. It's just, if that elite execution philosophy there is what's permeating through the organization, it's almost a math equation that you can't do anything but be successful.
Yeah, and that's great point. And I'd make a comment that sometimes I tell so we teach our elite execution system on a very active basis to real estate operators. We have an elite membership program where we teach and we help them implement these disciplines and these tools and these practices and technology into their businesses. And I often tell them that sometimes we set a bad example to the outside, just in the fact that it looks so simple and it looks so exciting and interesting. Well, I want to have 6 businesses, and I want to do this and this and this and this and this and this. And for us, we didn't have all these overnight. As I kind of described this before, it started with the real estate brokers, and a couple years later, when that was running smooth, we launched a construction company. And a couple years later, that was going smooth. We added management, and then we added fund management, then we added lending, and then we added, so it's been this steady process. As we implement this system, we have business running smooth. We add another vertical integration into what we do. Next up is, Jeremy, you and I talked right before we we're buying a bank, and that's going to fit in really cool in what we're doing. But you have to first, have everything else running smooth, have the right leadership in place, have everything generating significant profits consistently, reliably, before you as CEO or leader in your business can take your focus and do something else. And the thing I always remind myself of, and I feel like I'm on here endorsing Jim Collins today, but I am a big fan. Another one of his great books is How the Mighty Fall. And, Jim talks about how more companies go into bankruptcy due to indigestion than starvation. I think sometimes as entrepreneurs,
trying to do too much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It can be easy to think, hey, use the word before, I have a Midas touch, so I can go do everything, and you can get yourself overextended, where you end up becoming weaker. And you got to make sure that you're staying very focused on handling and executing well and generating more profits. I was sitting down with a real estate operator right now who's growing his business pretty fast, and he's in Charlotte, North Carolina as his headquarters, and he was expanding into Charleston, and he was expanding into Atlanta. And we sat down and had this session. I was like, why are you going into these digital markets? You're not yet running your main market and tapped it out yet and running it well enough. You're not generating consistent profits. You need to stay focused there before you decide you're going to take on the world, right? And so I do caution people to stay focused in generating consistent cash flow, creating a positive impact on your clients, being able to give them reliably great service, and being able to do so without it all being reliant on you before you go and you get to that next thing and you get bigger. Get focused on being really great at executing on something before you expand into
Yeah.
doing everything. And I want to caution people because they look at us and say, hey, we want to do all these things. They all look like good business. They are all good businesses. We got to take it, step by step in a 20-mile march.
So is that, I mean, whereas so many, I think two things. Number one, you have people, and I've fallen victim to this myself personally, as to where you get kind of shiny penny syndrome, right? Or whatever the movie where they're like squirrel, right? You get you're on this path and you're doing good things, and then you see somebody that's making money over here selling widgets, coffee cups, doing real estate, doing mortgage, and now I want to go do that now, right? And then people never really get the success or the habits it is that they need to formulate success, because they're too easily distracted, right? They don't have a singular degree of focus. So for you in your business, whereas so many people failed, or you think it is that they fail from a lack of discipline and consistency? Is it this philosophy it is that you've had that even starting just the first business, just the real estate brokerage business, right? Is that I'm going to be singularly focused. I'm going to just put my head down. I'm going to work. I'm going to figure this out, or whatever it is. And then when that thing's going, then I'll add something. But why would I add something in the process? Like, why do you think even early on, when DLP was just one biz, why you were kicking butt when other people, the guy said, oh, 20 years from now, come back, kid, ha ha ha, why was it is that you figured out that recipe?
Yeah, it's great. You hit a lot of great things there. And I'll say, and this is, Jeremy, I know you have a big following and probably a lot of young entrepreneurs from understanding. And I think entrepreneurs, and that's a hot topic today, right? 20 years ago, entrepreneurship wasn't so cool and sexy, and starting your own business and launching new things is something many aspire to do today. And you mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk, and he's a great kind of thought leader in helping people do that and launch businesses and so forth. And I think often people go down a path of launching a business or doing something entrepreneurial, thinking that it's going to give me all this flexibility and freedom, and it's fun, and it's exciting, and it's new, and I'm creating something from scratch, and it is, and it's exciting. And then what happens though, once you start generating a certain level of some success, it starts getting harder, right? And it gets hard when you get into the details and you get into the weeds. And once you get past the stage of thinking and doing the cool setup stuff, and now you got to actually service clients, you got to deal with employees, and you got to deal with vendors, and you got to do hard work. It gets hard, and it gets detailed and difficult. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, I think, do a great job of putting all their energy and effort into something for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and getting some momentum because they do that. And then it starts getting hard, and they think, all right, I'll go add something else in that's new because that's more fun, that's exciting. And they don't realize that every business, and I've launched a lot of business, a number of businesses that we didn't even talk about today over this period of time, that every business, you start understanding when you look at everything as we do through the lens of the elite execution system, and every business has strategy, people, operations, acceleration, they're all very similar. They all have very similar challenges. And if you're struggling in developing leaders in your current business and you're having to do everything yourself, the next business is going to have those same problems. And it might be fun for a little while and be a distraction, but then that business is going to have the same challenges. And so I think a lot of times it's about the willingness to put in the discipline and build the habits, routines, and deal with the hard work, fight through it. And the term for this all and everything I just kind of describing here is grit.
Mm-hmm.
And Grit is a phenomenal book by Angela Duckworth. She kind of came up with this term, and the grit is passion plus perseverance towards long-term goals. So grit's about having a clear goal, clear direction that you're moving towards, and then having a relentless passion for improvement, of becoming great at what you do. And that singular focus of being the best at what you do, fighting through the challenges and roadblocks and headaches to continue to get better and better and better. That's how you build an incredible business. That's how you have tremendous success. And grit's very different than just working hard. It's about staying focused for a long period of time. And I'm in a group called Tiger 21, and Tiger 21 is an organization of about 700, 800, pretty wealthy individuals. Average guy is worth, about $100 million, guy or gal. So they're pretty successful people. And I'm in a group in Palm Beach, Florida. And in my group, we have many billionaires. And I have the pleasure every month, a different member does what's called a portfolio defense, where they kind of tell their life story, and then they share their financials as well and open it up for feedback. My favorite part, I've been in Tiger 21 now for I think 6 years, is seeing people's stories, and whether somebody's in, a logistics business or, something that most of us consider to be really, really boring. It's the grit, and they tell their story comes out of how they became the absolute best at that business, and the passion they have for the craft of what they do every day is what has driven them to be successful, that they could have $100 million, $500 million, $1 billion exit. It's that single pursuit of mastery, of being the best at a specific goal. And I encourage anybody out there struggling through fighting through business, understand it's meant to be a struggle. I try to remind myself anytime I deal with something hard, that if it was easy, everybody else would do it. It's meant to be hard, right? I'm working on a big transaction right now that's over $1 billion acquisition. And it's been the toughest deal I've ever done. And I tell myself all the time, $1 billion deals are supposed to be hard, right? It's supposed to be very difficult. It's supposed to take many months. It's supposed to have many days where you just want to give up on it, right? That's how it's supposed to be. And when you look at it through, as Ryan Holiday, another great author, likes to say in his book, Obstacle, the obstacle is the way. When you start looking at obstacles as means that you're on the right track, when you're running into walls and you're running a challenge, you understand that means you're on the right track. It's supposed to be hard. I think it can change your viewpoint of kind of the path you're on and help you stay focused.
Incredible. And that associate, I can only imagine it is. And so Tiger 21, great reputation. I know the lineage story of how it is that they got started. Incredible organization. I don't chin that bar yet, but I'm looking forward to doing so. But incredible group of people, and it goes back to that association and group, and the people it is that you are around are certainly uplifting, and that's just only further betters you and them and otherwise, which is exceptional. So, a couple things, looking back on your business today. So looking at Don 15 years ago, looking at Don 10 years ago, is there anything it is that you, I guess two parts of this question. Number one, is there anything that you wish you would have done sooner? Like, is there a decision you wish you would have made sooner? Number one. And then number two, is there something it is a decision that you made that said, the minute it is that I do that, we just shifted into fifth gear, and it made something, it really was a turning point for us.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. And I'm going to just before I answer those questions directly, I'm going to take a quick step back, and we're coming to an end, and I want to just hit on one or two things to give a little perspective. So, one of our core values here at our organization, and I believe strongly in, is living fully, and living fully is about work-life integration, not work-life balance, work-life integration. Figuring out how you balance all of our priorities of life together. And I think that's what real success is when you can be successful in each area of your life at the same time. And we call them the 8 F's of life, family, friends, faith, fitness, finance, fulfillment, fun. There are 8 F's of life. And I just want to remind everybody, sometimes, I think we hear really successful people and learn from others. It can motivate us and get us to burn the midnight oil and work really hard and make that our singular focus. Is just remind everybody. So I'm a much better father than I am a CEO. I'm hopefully a better husband than I am a CEO. That one, maybe I'll argue some days. Well, my wife, that's up to my wife. I'm a better leader in my church than I'm a leader in my business. And I just encourage everybody, is not saying to work hard. I still can say easily, I outwork everybody in not easily, but I work as hard as anybody in my organization. I have a lot of hardworking people. But my wife will never tell you. I head coach my kids' sports. I'm very involved in my church, et cetera. So to encourage people to understand that real success is achieving success in all of the areas that are important to you at the same time. And in today's world of Zoom and podcasts and work from home, you can do it all at the same time, much easier than ever before. And I just wanted to mention that here. To answer your specific question, Jeremy, on terms of what I would have done sooner. So I'm one of my, and I've worked a lot on it. And I think many people who work in organization today, our investors, people don't, would think in some ways I'm a patient person today, as I'm pretty even keeled, and it takes a lot to get me worked up any which way today. But I'm still internally, I battle with a major struggle of patience. So I would say just about everything we've done, I wanted to do it faster. So there's not many things that I don't feel haven't taken us too long. And that's a good thing. When you feel every day frustrated that we're not doing things better, frustrated we haven't solved this problem yet, frustrated that I don't have a leader in a specific seat yet, frustrated that not everybody's performing as well as we want. Those frustrations mean that you're fully engaged, and that's a good thing. And when you can look back every quarter, every year, and say, we're definitely got better in every regard than where I was a year ago, you're making progress, and you should see challenges. That's a good thing. So I would just say, a couple of those specific answers. I'd say, we hired pretty fast, but almost every time I've hired for a seat, I thought, man, I should have filled this seat faster. I should have brought somebody on sooner. And then I guess the other big one I'd say is the fund management business. So being that we're real estate operators, doing the syndication type model and managing individual relationships is a tough way to scale, in my opinion. And when we kind of launched the fund management business and started managing investment funds, we feel we really have served investors better because we're giving them better, consistent returns, diversification of risk, et cetera. But it's also made it much easier to scale. And I'd say that doing that in about 2013, launching our first investment funds, was definitely a big tipping point that led to incredible ability to scale.
So last couple of questions for you. So from somebody looking from the outside in, they would pretty much seem it is, you could easily get the impression it is that you kind of got it all figured out, right? So what at this point still motivates you? Like what are you still chasing? What do you see, done in DLP in not 2 years or 5 years, or what do you see in the next 5 years it is for you? What's still, inspiring you and motivating you it is and keeping you up at night?
So, I'm going to hit a couple things there. So the book I just wrote called Building Elite Organization is the blueprint to scaling a high growth, high profit business. And so our world today is around what the system is about: scale. And so what gets me excited today is scale. And from the perspective of understanding that today at our current size and my responsibility and privilege I have of sitting atop of this organization as CEO, and that responsibility, I know today that the decisions I make and the work I do, I know the impact that it has internally and externally for our clients and communities, and it's a great responsibility, but it's also a great opportunity to understand the amazing impact we can have today at our current size, let alone understanding that when you follow this 20-mile march methodology, you realize how big that impact is going to grow and how fast it is. So, a few months ago, we passed $1 billion in AUM, which was a big goal for us for years. It's a big number. I don't care what you're talking about. $1 billion is a big number, right?
Yeah.
So we're now at $1.1 billion. And so what's pretty cool is we've talked a couple of times here in this in our time together is, we've grown by 60% or more every year. But if we slow down our growth and we just continue to grow 20% a year throughout this decade, we're at 10 billion at the end of this decade, right? So that's big, right? I mean, these are huge scale. When we look at where we're at today, we're just getting started. So when we understand the scope and scale of the decisions we make and how many people that can help and affect, how many solutions we can provide, it's inspiring, it's motivating. Again, it's a great responsibility, but it gets me excited, it gets me motivated. I jump out of bed every morning, excited to get going. Usually by the time I'm out of the shower, I have 8 ideas I'm writing down.
Right.
And I fall asleep within 1 minute of laying down. I wear one of these Aurora watches. My latency is about 1 minute. So I run hard all day. And so nothing keeps me up at night, but I'm inspired and motivated every day. I'm more excited today than I've been at any point, for our ability to impact and do good and impact, impact positively, a lot of people, a lot of organizations. So that's what motivates me. I mean, what's ahead for us is really, as I said, scale, growing the scope of what we do. We have some pretty big goals. Our biggest new goal per se. That was, we look at our 20-mile march and we set these checkpoints. What we're going to checkpoint for 2027 and 2030 and 2035. We set kind of these charts. Say, all right, are we on track with our purpose? And our big new one, which is probably the first time I'm saying this out publicly, is our 2035 checkpoint is to be in the Fortune 500. So that's a pretty big number. And we'd be one of, I don't know how many, not many, who are private companies, because we're going to remain private. So to be a Fortune 500 company, again, doesn't matter how you look at it, how much you know about what it takes to get there. That's a big number. That's a big status point. That means you're making a pretty huge impact to be one of the 500 largest companies in, the greatest country on earth. So that's something that's pretty cool and gives you an idea kind of the direction we're heading.
That is unbelievable, buddy. I have no doubt that you'll be there. I don't think anybody listening to this has any doubt that you'll be there. That's incredible. Incredible. All right. So building an elite organization, the new book, where can people find this? Where can people get this?
Well, depending on when you're listening to this podcast, book's out as you see it here in my hand, but the Amazon, Audible, etc. launch is happening literally in the next couple of weeks. Awesome. So literally the book will be out on Amazon, Audible, or anywhere else you buy books in the next couple of weeks. You'll also be able to find it at DLP Elite, DLPELITE.com. That's also where you can click free resources and download all the tools we use and we talk about in the book, from our compass, which lays out our clear direction, to all the different operating tools we use to help us execute on our 20-mile march as well. Whether you buy the book or not, you can download those free tools as well.
That's exceptional. And so so DLP Elite, and then where can people
Audible, anywhere else. Yep.
Awesome. And then where can people connect with you? So if somebody wants to reach out and learn more about you or DLP or what you're doing, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can reach out to us. Again, you can go to dlpelite.com. You can submit information there. Our main website is dlprealestate.com. That's our main company website. Also, if you just want to kind of learn more about us, and then anybody wants to shoot me an email, you're welcome to do so as well. It's Don, D-O-N, at dlpre.com. Don at dlpre.com.
My friend, dude, I'm spinning. Just an incredible time. And I'm just so thankful and great and thankful for you coming on and sharing your story and learning. You're exceptional, buddy. You deserve every amount of success it is that you have.
Thank you, Jeremy. Well, appreciate your friendship, the opportunity to speak with your audience, and look forward to seeing you soon. Enjoy holidays, New Year, everybody. And thank you.
Awesome, buddy. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thanks for listening today. This has been the Jeremy B. Hill Show. If you liked today's episode, go on and give us a 5-star review. Not 4, but 5. And even more importantly, share it with somebody else. This is Jeremy B. Hill. Your success is waiting for you, but it's not going to wait forever. Go get it.